Can baseball work in India was the question on every cricket show, and boy, have England answered it. Up 1-0 in the five-match series. Welcome to the shiny side. I'm your host, Faris, and we have with us once again Vivek from Gurgaon. How's it going, Vivek?
Very well, Faris. Thanks. Nice to be here again.
And how are you? What's your initial sentiment after what's probably been an incredible test match today? It just finished.
Yeah,
India on the wrong
quite
side, but an incredible game.
a great test match. Obviously shocked and surprised. I think for India to lose a test match at home
Yeah,
is a big deal.
yeah.
It's generally been anyway for a while. So, but well played. I think overall England were the better side,
Yeah.
and they really came back strong.
Yeah. So I'm quickly going to do the 55-second summary of the test match, which is England batted first, made they at one point they were struggling at about 60 for three, but thanks to Ben Stokes' 70, they made 246. In response, India looked really good. They scored 436, three guys getting 80 odds, Rahul, Jadeja, and Jaiswal. They were leading by 180 runs, at which point I thought the game was done. But England came back with scoring 420, essentially dominated by Ollie Pope, who scored a mammoth 196. And and in reply, it set India a target of about 230 odd, and India couldn't really get going. And Hartley, who was the guy who was getting hit all over the park in the first inning, took a 7-4 on debut. So a ton of crazy stuff to talk about, really. But I guess where would you say, from an Indian point of view, Vivek, and they were leading by 180 runs. So regardless of what happens after, right? It's really hard to lose a game. So what were the two, three major things you think that went wrong for India there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was 190, I think the lead was.
190, yeah.
So I think that there are probably very finite few cases where a team has anyways won.
For sure.
In those scenarios, right? So I think what we've seen is anyways quite extraordinary. Clearly, I mean, it was England batted very strongly. They always bat in this way, this baseball approach. But like we discussed, to be honest, I think a lot of teams are playing that kind of approach. Like it seems to be easier for teams to score quickly rather than stay at the crease and score slowly. Those classic test match innings are, I mean, I don't think you see those anymore, right? It's more like limited overs tests is what we are playing. So, no, came back super strong. I think I couldn't understand. I mean, did the Indian bowlers not use the conditions well enough? I'm talking about Ashwin, Jadeja, because even when the Indian innings in the first innings got over, right? And if you saw Ashwin got out, Akshar Patel got out, there were these balls which spun sharply, kept a bit low. But then when, a few hours later, suddenly India's bowling. And I mean, definitely when the ball was new, I think India couldn't get very far at all. There wasn't much happening. And then a little bit in the beginning, but obviously Ollie Pope held the innings strongly together. I mean, he was a huge difference in the end, right? Like if you think about that 230 target, and if you think about his 196, obviously that's just been a massive.
I mean, nobody else from England has got to 50 in the game, by the way.
Yeah.
So clearly he scored a bulk of the runs, and again, right, like Ashwin, Jadeja, Akshar in the first innings, they were really good. They got 8 wickets between them. England played them well in patches, but there was no big score. But Ollie Pope again was just outstanding. I guess we also have to talk a little bit about, we talk about baseball. I think the whole thought process is, it's about hitting aggressively, blah, blah. But I think if you take a step back, think about the way England picked the side for this. Now, until a day and a half ago, I was here thinking picking Hartley for this game was a bad idea. And I think I wasn't the only one. And, the way they actually picked these guys, when Rob Key announced the squad, most people hadn't heard of Hartley. He's played 20-odd first-class games. Not a great record, but they were looking for very specific skills. And he actually said in the presser that this guy is our answer to Akshar Patel because he's tall and he balls that kind of spin, right? So that's how specific they are. And they would ignore people who perhaps had a more distinguished record in county cricket because they wanted a very specific skill set. And they weren't afraid to get guys in who had barely played a match. And that kind of, I guess, free thinking or unorthodox thinking, which you don't normally see from any country in test cricket, is probably, again, it's being rewarded here, isn't it?
Absolutely. But, England, I think just they learned from the tour they made last time, where, Akshar Patel, in fact, was specially brought in for that tour. He wasn't playing before and
Yeah.
after as well, right? It was just for that England series, and he
And,
nailed them,
yeah. And he's been a regular in the test side since, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So they clearly needed more. I mean, they came last time with their typical team and
Yeah.
they struggled. So they obviously did their homework. They knew the conditions well, and maybe Hartley might be one of those just for India or subcontinent
Yeah.
pitches
Yeah.
going to come in, right? So, but it's good. It's nice to see that when they've really taken that effort and come
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
So hats off to them.
For those of you watching, by the way, if you have a view on what went wrong for India, please leave a comment. But talking about Hartley, right? So he's played about 20 odd first class games. He was hit, I think Jaiswal hit him for a six in the first ball he bowled in his career. I think he's only the third guy to go for a six, by the way. And one of them is Fab Duplessis, so there are no bowlers otherwise. And he was struggling, but Ben Stokes kind of kept bringing him back. He eventually got a couple of wickets later on in the innings, right? But the way he's on debut, the way he's bowled today, and again, it was that kind of a perfect pitch for Akshar, right? Where you kind of just put it on the track. Some move, some don't. The natural variation takes care of it. And what did you make of Hartley overall?
No, he was obviously very accurate. I do feel though, I mean, I think India lost the plot a bit. I mean, they should have chased the score down. Of course, England came back strongly with and maybe psychologically that basically pushed these guys back. India may have, like all of us, expected that, okay, we're waking up the next morning with a target of 150 or something like that. I think the fact that they batted that long, and remember, it wasn't just Ollie Pope. It was the tail wagged quite a bit. I mean, Rehan, he played a very good hand. There was the other. I mean, for all of these guys, actually, they batted around him really well.
So I think, and talking about Pope, right? I think how well he played with the tail as well. So when Hartley came into bat, they added 100 runs. Hartley and Pope added 100 runs for the ninth wicket, right? And again, they lost by like 30, 40 odds. So that was obviously a crucial partnership.
Huge. I mean, they were
160 for five at some point, by the way, and then they made 420. So they added 260 for the last five.
Yeah. So, I mean, matches always like that, and those teams win the matches finally when those additional added contributions come. India had their chances. So I think where India maybe didn't have the answers were Ollie Pope was very aggressive with those switch hits and reverse sweeps, and obviously to counter the spin. It's a very dangerous thing to do on a third, fourth day track in India. But it worked for him. I mean, so it seemed to be great. I think he was way more comfortable doing it than even the Indian batsman.
I mean, to be honest, for me, I think the star of the show was actually Ollie Pope, right? Because after the first innings, behind 180 odd, 160 for five, like we said, coming in and playing that kind of knock, by the time he was done batting, I mean, it was more of a 50-50 game by the time Hartley came on to ball in the end, right? So I feel like Ollie Pope's innings was probably one of the best I can remember from an overseas batsman in India in a very long time, right?
Long time. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, so I think that's the thing with this baseball approach, right? You're not just scoring 100, you're disrupting the opposition. And he effectively neutralized the bowlers, right? So he was fantastic. Bumrah kept coming back in his spells and, pulling India back in, but still fundamentally, I mean, something obviously they played well. I mean, he kept it at it. India had their chances. He was dropped twice, right?
But ordinarily, you know what, India, even if they would drop a couple of chances, they would keep creating a lot of them, right? But we didn't see that for some reason this time around. Like they didn't create enough chances, I feel like, because obviously, how at home, even if India misses a catch or two,
yeah.
And Pope, by the way,
this was a close match, right? See, no, I think first you have to give it like England played really well. So obviously it was going to be small things that swing it because it was close. And India will go back saying that, hey, happened. But I think at the end of the day, India, maybe they didn't have answers to the way they countered the spin. I think done their research against Akshar Patel, Ashwin, Jadeja was, not so effective overall when you see. And they did their homework. And I think that helped them largely. Obviously, Ollie Pope's hand. I think the way the tail batted with so much application was fantastic. I think when India chased, there were a few misses there. I mean, India should have scored those runs. I mean, Sharma was looking very comfortable. And his dismissal was a problem. In fact, if you remember the start, they were 44 for no loss in 11 overs, galloping along. Jaiswal, one shot too many. I mean, this is India's baseball as well, right? Or T20. Rohit Sharma as well, very aggressive and just got out playing that shot. Shubman Gill was a miss, didn't trouble the scorer. And I guess now at that point, suddenly you feel you miss Virat Kohli.
Yeah, of course.
And like I said earlier, I think even with Kohli, Indians miss that Rahane and Pujara,
for sure.
Somewhere those non-glorious, non-headline batsmen.
By the way, last time England were in India, Kohli averaged 20 in the series. But it was actually Rohit and then a bit of Rahane. Rishabh Pant played some good knocks. So that's what actually got India.
Kohli was going through that patch. But I remember there was one innings Kohli played actually a 50 odd in this extremely turning track. And in these things, it would have made a difference. His technique and his composure, temperament. But,
Sure. And, I just want to know a quick thing on Ollie Pope also. So he actually got injured in the second Ashes test. He didn't finish the Ashes for England. This is his actually first match since. And there's a good chance that had Harry Brook not had to rush back to India, Pope may have been the guy to have missed out, by the way, on the 11th. So clearly he's not going anywhere for the next 4 games now. But I know, well done to him coming back from a big injury, shoulder injury, and then coming back again in this fashion. And what a knock! But I guess just want a quick word on also in the first innings, right, with Ben Stokes' knock, because I think at one point they were 120 for 6 or so, and I think that's when Stokes did his classic Stokes knock, where he initially played a very classical inning, absorbed the pressure, and with 7 or 8 down, it really unleashed. And at that point, 2 for 50 looked like I don't think he didn't look like a great score, but it looked like they haven't lost it in the first inning, right? They were kind of in the game. And again, proved, right, what, like you said, you only remember what happened in the last day or so, but that was a very crucial knock in the larger scheme of things,
No, absolutely. I mean, margin is only 28 runs. I mean, that's 7 boundaries. So everything counts. So obviously Stokes is 70 in the beginning counts. Stokes is a world-class player. I mean, I think his personality and I believe also I've read about how he just carries the team. I think his presence itself makes a lot of difference.
And I saw this stat about Jadeja that blew my mind. Since 2018, Jadeja has more 50-plus scores in tests in India than anybody else, more than Kohli, Rohit, anybody. So that's how consistent he's been with the bat. And I think it's going to talk about India's 3 spinners, right? I think a big part of their success has been not only how good they are with the ball, but they also contribute with the bat regularly, right? It also allows India to play the specialist spinner. And again, I think with the bat here in the first innings, Jadeja again made 75. I guess if you look at them as well, right, it's almost a tale of 2 innings, where in the first innings, they were exactly what we've seen them do over the last 5 years. In the second innings, they definitely struggled to get, again, with Ollie Pope especially.
But if I can add, on the first innings, if you see the second day was great. Day 3, when those last 80, 100 runs, I mean, they came very slowly if you followed that part of the game.
Yeah, true.
And they were kind of slugging it out a little bit.
In fact, I think
if I can just add, scored a little more quickly there.
They only made 6 runs in the first 30 minutes or some bizarre stat like that. Jadeja and I think Akshar and Jadeja were batting at that time.
Following the score then, and I mean, again, maybe they didn't think it would go so. Obviously, nobody thought it would go so close. But when you look at a 28-run difference, then that also counts. If they had scored quickly 15, 20 more runs, that again would have made a lot of difference. So, but somewhere I think the momentum shifted on day 3. To England.
Would you say India missed any obvious tricks with the ball with Ollie Pope?
The only thing I could think of from what I was seeing was that I mean, maybe planning for the reverse sweep shot, and then
and he plays this other bizarre shot, right? I don't know if it's a lap or what, but he's kind of just chipping it over the keeper. Like he played that shot a lot as well.
The one he got out at 196 to Bumrah was again that shot, right? Quite an outrageous shot. I mean, it goes to show, I mean, I don't know whether he is supremely confident because he was scoring so many runs on that. He was just 4 runs away from a double 100. And So no, I guess that's the only thing I can think of, like, which is maybe in the field placements, maybe around. Somehow I felt they didn't react maybe strongly enough to that. And that's
I mean, I guess
possibly.
when you are leading by 180, you can be a bit complacent, right? Like it's obviously it can happen.
I think they didn't know what hit them,
Yeah.
and they were expecting to chase 150, 160, and then. And the momentum of the match, even when they were chasing 130, 44 for no loss, and they lose the first wicket, and then Shubman Gill gets out, and then there's a little bit of, oh shit, maybe this is not going to go our way. But then Rohit and Rahul, like very comfortable. And Rohit Sharma's wicket was super key. Then they lose three. Then there was a problem, but then Akshar Patel and Rahul played pretty well. They had a good 40 run or so partnership. At that point, again, if the momentum, the mood in the crowd, everything was that, okay, India maybe going to fight a little bit more than we thought, but we're going to see this through. And then basically it just fell through.
So I mentioned this in the preview. Since 2021, 400 has only been scored 5 times in test matches in India and scores under 219 times. Now, 400 was scored twice this game, which suggests that this track was perhaps slightly easier to bat on than recent tracks in India. Do you, again, I mentioned this before, the last time around, England won the first test match on a very flat track. And then the tracks then were insanely sprint friendly, and no team even scored 300 after that in the series. So do you expect the track India to go for more spin friendly tracks, or do you feel like this is more an aberration? They should stick to what they're doing right now?
Sure. I don't know, because it's like we discussed this last time, right? Like, if they prepare extremely spin-friendly tracks, then suddenly you have a Joe Root who looks like he's Shane Warne or something on that. And, he was playing and missing against Joe Root, and it brings everybody in the game. And they've done their homework. They're no mean spinners, with Jack Leach, and Jack Leach is anyways, experienced. And then now with this, with Hartley as well. So, India is not that strong in playing spin as, say, maybe they used to be. And then, and then Virat Kohli is not there, let's say. And maybe like, even again with Pujara, Rahane also not. I don't know that solidity. Like, I don't see that in Shreyas Iyer, for instance.
So I think there was some stat going around on, I think, the Wisdom podcast, where I think they said 3 of the 5 Indian top order batsmen, I think their lowest average is against left arm spin. So that's why they loaded up with 2 left arm spinners for the series, right? And I'm not sure who all was on that list, but Rohit was, and so there were a couple of others.
Yeah. No, I think there is a middle order problem in India. We discussed it before. I think in the test team, that gap of Pujara and Rahane is there. Fine. Virat Kohli, when in form, I guess, can compensate for all of that. Unfortunately, he's not there, and not there for the next one as well. So there was a weakness. I mean, yes, Akshar Patel and these guys can play they're good when you look at it from a perspective of a tail ender. I mean, a bowler who can bat. But I mean,
you still need your middle order to stand up.
Yeah, that was the problem, right?
And I guess, I mean, I guess with Kohli, hopefully, and I hope things are well for him, and he's back for the 3rd test. I almost feel like the next test is a bit of a bat off between perhaps Iyer and Gill, because they both haven't been scoring very heavily, and so the question is, once he comes back, who sits out, right? And there's not an obvious answer at this particular point in time, because again, Gill has had a pretty lean year in last year in Test cricket, even though he was killing it in T20s, etc. So he could, I mean, his place could be up for grabs, even though he's the king in waiting, as they say. And then the Shreyas Iyer number 5. So I'm not sure if it's a very easy answer on to who goes out.
I don't know. It's very hard. I mean, I think I've given up trying to figure out how the Indian management thinks about team composition. Because first, it is too complex, too many options. But I would guess that I think Gill would still get the preference over Iyer. But I mean, maybe the next match will show us, right?
Because I think KL Rahul has done enough. I think he will keep his place for sure.
I mean, he could have batted. It was a little bit loose. I think a little bit casual. Today's shot, he was playing well. But yeah, I think that's going to be the.
But
I would fire off.
We got what we wanted, right? We wanted a close game. We wanted a good test series, and regardless of what happens from here, I think we will see a exciting close test series. So looking forward to that for sure.
If I'm not wrong, I think the first test in England's last tour, obviously, like we said, England won. was a batting track. There was a 500 odd something scored. I think Joe Root scored a double hundred.
Yes, exactly.
So it's quite similar if you think, Ollie Pope scored 196 and then
except I think the other key difference there was, Vivek, there after the first innings, England led by 100 plus runs. Here, it was, India was on top of, to be honest. Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. I mean, I think once England scored 500, that they were never really behind in that game. They were always ahead. It was just a matter of, well, this is India. How can they win? So it was just, and they eventually just, I guess, finished the game.
Remarkable. I mean, like, it's amazing. Like 4 days. It's harder, I think, for a match to last 5 days. I mean, how many test matches have lasted 5 days? That would be a good start over the last 3 years. I think very few.
Yeah, to be honest, at this point today, when I saw the score, and I was like, okay, fine, this one's definitely going to day 5, because I thought regardless of who will win, this will go on to day 5. But clearly that didn't happen. Just about.
After they lost that flurry, and then it was Ashwin and Bharat, who I think Bharat played a good hand for as long as he did. They got a nasty one, and then it just spun off more than he expected. But definitely good on him. I mean, to have shown that composure. Ashwin, I expected a little bit more. I mean, with his experience and all that. But I think when he lost Bharat at that end, he thought he just had to take few chances, and then he got one that rolled away from him.
This should have been my first question, but how key was the toss here with England winning and opting to bat?
I don't think so. I mean, like, I don't think there was anything in this match to suggest that if the toss was the other way around, it was a very close match. And that's all. We just put it
also because the ball was spinning a fair bit on day 1, right? So it's not like it was a flat track on day 1, we started spinning on day 3 and 4. It wasn't anything like that.
Exactly. So. It didn't deteriorate so much. Maybe that's a valid point. So maybe, but I don't even think India was at a particular disadvantage chasing this 230, more than I think it was that's a good match. I think fairly even, whatever the conditions were. It didn't really go this way, that way because of the pace.
So until yesterday, I was thinking England got the 11 wrong for sure. They should have had a Jimmy Anderson for Hartley, perhaps. How do you see England's 11 for the next game? Do you think they're going to go with this, given assuming a similar kind of track?
Where is the match happening?
It's at Visakhapatnam.
Visakhapatnam. Okay, I don't know. I mean, like, but I guess they've done their homework on the wickets. I mean, this is the other thing, right? Like, the mystery around all these Indian pitches and conditions is all gone. I mean, because they play so much here, they have their individual IPL level experience here. I think they're very acclimatized. They know. I won't be surprised if they have a couple of other tricks up their sleeve. I mean, whether for this pitch, have this ball.
I mean, not a cricket term, but in terms of the familiarity point. So they were talking about how Johnny Bairstow's been making a list of where they should have lunch and dinner, etc., because he plays for Sunrisers Hyderabad. So he spends a lot of time in Hyderabad, very familiar with the city, right? So, and that's probably true for every city they go to. There's somebody who's probably familiar with it nowadays.
No, so I think for sure India can't, as strong as India is, and fine, India is a good force to reckon with now playing abroad, which wasn't the case before. But India definitely can't take it for granted when you have top teams at home. I mean, those days are over because they come with their homework. I mean, I think Hartley is a great example. Even this Rehan Khan, the spinner. I mean,
Rehan Ahmed,
Rehan Ahmed. Sorry. So also quite a fine. I mean, clearly shows that they're thinking and they've come prepared specifically for this tour. So there's nothing taken for granted here.
Okay. Final thoughts on how do you see this series developing?
Yeah, I would still like to stick to my prediction earlier, which is a 1-4. So pretty much similar to how it happened last time. Maybe a good kick up the backside in the beginning is good for the Indian team, and I think good for the series as well. No, I think it's nice. And what was exciting was just the approach with which both teams batted aggressively, and it's just great. So I think it's fantastic that the match swings so much, and hats off. I mean, to a very positive approach. Every team is playing to win. There's nobody at any point of time, even in this match, saying, "Oh, let's just like."
I mean, the games move so fast for now that the draw is not even an option, really, right? Like you can't really play for that.
So, so which is great. So I'm looking forward to a very fantastic series, and happily following Australia, West Indies as well. So I think
by the way,
it's very nice to see that also. So hopefully, I think it's just a good time for Test cricket.
For sure. And those of you watching, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. And Vivek, thank you for being on.
Sure, appreciate it. Thanks, Farish.
And I'm sure we'll be talking soon later in the series. In the meantime, stay tuned to The Shiny Side.